Hey, so the 27th and 28th, the Minnesota State Championships takes place in the US. Um, it's Operation Sledgehammer that the Snafu guys are, I think they're running it. So I have gotten a hold of the lists, and as per usual, I've done a meta show. And I might even show you one of the lists because it's very, very unusual and very, very cool. So, this is the meta of the Minnesota State Championships Sledgehammer. The event itself is blue on blue, 1125 points. Again, a lot of people this year are getting into weird and wonderful numbers for their points. It's a single generic reinforced platoon, and there's a bit of comp. You can take a maximum of one multi-rocket launcher, heavy howitzer, or flamer, and a maximum of 2 Gurkhas, bamboo spear warriors, cavalry, or shirkers. So cutting down on all the spam here. The Axis powers, including their miners, can take one MMG team for free if they let go of one of their national special rules. So that's pretty cool. And there are 18 players signed up as right now. The ordered Aiz distribution. Now, I've often talked about how this is a little different US meta compared to Europe meta. And I'm seeing this again. So the ordered Aiz is between 10 and 20. 10 being the very lowest and only one player is bringing that. 20 being the very highest, only one player is bringing that. Both of them are in the extremes of what is normal. The most normal thing to bring is 16 ordered Aiz or 15, 17. And the average is 15.1. This is a little lower than you would see in Europe. For 1125, you would see 16 as the average. So I've often talked about how Americans have a little lower meta in their ordered Aiz counts, and we're seeing that again here. The nations being brought is there are 5 Germans, 4 British, 3 Soviets, 2 Japanese, 1 Hungary, 2 Americans, 1 Dutch, Netherlands, but no Italians at all. I was very surprised by that, especially because if I was going with that pack, I was definitely bringing my Italians. I was going to like build an Italian army just for that one event, because that really lends itself to Case Blue. It really does. But hey, nobody else thought so. So the distribution is fairly normal. The German lists here are very much expected. I mean, there's always someone bringing German lists. Quite often they're thematic and not competitive, but some of them are. The British lists I'm a little bit surprised about. I had thought to see more American lists. I typically do at American events. Also because limiting Gurkhas really hurts the assault Brits, so I thought a lot of people might shift over to something else. But they're very, very popular apparently. Soviets make sense for me, but they also have a limit that you can take a maximum of 1 free unit, so that doesn't hurt Soviets that much. So it wasn't a big surprise that Soviets were there. I did think that a lot more would bring Soviets, but again, it's a little bit sad not to see more minor nations. Hungary and the Dutch are welcome, of course. Netherlands, but it's only 2 of 18 bringing a minor nation, which sucks a little bit. Let's hope that version 3 brings something new in that respect. Now, the builds. We will often see that Americans tend to want to bring mixed bag lists, and I'm seeing this. But the pack, of course, also massively favors mixed bag lists, so that might not be as much of a surprise, really, because it's just like it really, when you cut down on everything else, one of each makes perfect sense, right? I'm lumping mixed bag and skirmish in together here because they're quite similar in many respects. A skirmish list for me is a list that heavily focuses on rifles and moving back and forth in the middle of the table, not engaging in close combat with their infantry selection. And a mixed bag list does this, but has a little bit of everything as well. So one of each teams and maybe an engineer unit or something. They're very similar in many respects. They're balanced lists. There'll also always be someone who brings a lot of gear, and I've lumped these in together right now. There are 6 lists who bring gear and or veterans. For me, these lists are maybe not hyper competitive. Maybe the player is bringing them for another reason. Simply because you have a list where you're putting a lot of points into what I would term point sinks that may not be absolutely competitive and cutting edge in what you can get for your points, right? There were only 3 assault lists. This is very much to be expected. Once you cut down on the Gurkhas and cavalry, assault becomes really difficult. But for the lists who can still do it, that's why I thought that there would be more Italians, because, I mean, Gurkhas away. The Polish Lancers won't be there. So I thought that there would be more people bringing assault Italians, for instance. But there wasn't. And I also think that, for instance, assault Japanese would have been a thing. No. Go figure. Only 2 Death Stars. One of them was a Calliope. Always awesome to see that one, although it's way overcosted. And only 1 leaf blower, because leaf blowing is really difficult when you have only 1 platoon. This was the Netherlands list, so it had, of course, the free howitzer, which is brilliant. And it was a combination of 2 things. I might also show you that list because it's really cool as well. There was 1 motorized list and 1 mechanized / faux tank list. So motorized lists are lists that bring a lot of transport, like can transport most of their stuff. And at the end here, I'll add 1 list, and that is there's 1 MSU list that has recce and is motorized, and it's amazeballs. It's the best I've seen in quite a while. It's just such a cool list. I don't know why, but this final half year of version 2 brings forth the best in the lists here. I need to show you this list. It's really, really cool. So that's the mix. Very much to be expected. I did expect maybe a few more assaulters, but otherwise it's pretty much as we thought it would be. The ranking for me goes between 2 and 4. 2 being non-competitive thematic lists, and 4 being very strong competitive lists. I do believe I may undervalue. I often do that. I may undervalue some of these lists simply because they are in a meta that I usually don't play in. So I might be sitting here thinking that, I could do all of that, and it may not be what's actually strongest in the US, right? But I look at the lists, and the way I rank them is I say, okay, could I improve this list? Could I min-max this list anymore? And there are lists that I could min-max anymore, min-max some more. I mean, there are none of the lists where I think this is the best list I could possibly have built, with maybe the exception of 1. The average, though, is a 3.3. I'm often seeing that in tournaments, like strong lists. There are quite a few 3.5 lists in the mix here, and that is strong competitive lists. And there are some 4s, which are lists I think could win the tournament. So, my predictions. My predictions are that Bristow, with his 20 organized British SAS MSU Jeep list, which is a 4 for me, is going to be in the top. I also think that Ian, with his 16 organized Dutch faux tank HE list, again a 4, is going to be in the top. Scott, with his 16 organized Japanese veterans, yeah, that's a good assault list. 3.5 for me. I maybe didn't massively like the support choices. Disagree a little bit on that. Again, could be a meta thing. Steve, with his 17 organized Gurkha's assault Brits, looks very much like a list I could have made. It's a 3.5 just because it's when you cut down on the Gurkhas, it becomes really difficult to actually benefit that much from your assault Brits. So for me, it goes down a bit. I don't think it fits very well to the pack here, but it is a strong list. No denying that. And I do think he could end up in the top as well. The final one I have rated here is Ryan, who's bringing a 16 organized German greatest hits list. So one of everything that's good, including the Dagger Panzer. That's also a 3.5 for me. A very strong competitive list, although could potentially be optimized even more. So that was the lists. Here at the end, I wanted to show you, and I'm going to take you here to Discord. I have the lists here. Right, I wanted to show you Bristow's list just because it's so goddamn cool. Here we go. So this is the list that he's bringing. One thing I don't agree with is Blood Curdling Charge. I don't think that will be massively useful for this list. I would have preferred Vengeance. But look at what he's got. He's got a second lieutenant inexperienced. With an extra man, I'm guessing, because there are 2 men there. 2 SMGs. Then an artillery observer with 3 SMGs, so double extra men. Again, like all the small teams have a good chunky size here. He has an 8-man Gurkha unit, so that is what's going to use his Blood Curdling Charge. And then SAS infantry, 4 men SMGs all the way down here. Who dares wins? These are fanatics with SMGs, very, very cool. There's a medium mortar. There's an anti-tank Blacker Bombard, 3-man team. A land mattress, 3-man team, so he can really bombard the enemy here. Just shooting HE. He's got 3 HEs that he can shoot every single turn, which is very cool. 3 early war motorcycles with forward-facing LMG. Look at the spamming of units here. It's brilliant. He's got an Otter armored thing. That's an... I'm not sure what that is. Can't remember. Armored OP, forward-facing LMG, open-top recce, some sort of armored transport, I guess. And then SAS Jeeps, and these are brilliant. You know why? Because they're not just a delivery system, which means that they don't die if they're closest to the enemy. They have a forward-facing Vickers K, so again, all the darker you get here. And a Stuart recce with open top, just keeping to the theme of having recce. All of this, by the way, has got recce, right? All of it. Every single one of them has got recce. This is amazing. It's the whole army that can move back and forth and recce and get away, and it's just so goddamn cool. It's so goddamn cool. Except the HE, that is going to sit somewhere, hopefully under cover of Gurkhas, and just pump out every single turn. This, I think, is a really scary army to face. Really scary. So, that was what I wanted to show you to everyone going this weekend. Good luck. And to the rest of you, I will see you in the next video. Cheers.